Hey everybody, I'm attorney Aiden Kramer with the Law Office of Aiden Kramer in Colorado, and you're watching All Up in Your Business. I put up a video last week talking about trade names and DBAs, and I said that I was going to be making a video soon talking about using multiple LLCs versus using just DBAs under one. So as promised, here is this video. If you have an LLC or a corporation and you're operating multiple businesses, you might wonder, should I have separate LLCs for each one, or can I just use a DBA or a trade name for each different business? There are pros and cons to doing it either way, obviously, with everything. There's good things and bad things. But depending on the type of business that you're running and how the two businesses are connected, for some people it might make sense to have multiple LLCs, and for some it would be better to just operate under one LLC using different trade names. As we all know, because I've talked about it millions and billions of times, an LLC gives liability protection between you as the business owner and the business itself. Operating under a trade name with that LLC, so using a trade name that's different from the LLC but still operating under the LLC, still gives you that liability protection. And you can operate under multiple trade names, and that's in most cases not going to affect your liability. You'll still have that liability protection from the LLC even if you're using multiple trade names. So if the different businesses that you're operating under different trade names, if they're all pretty similar in nature, if the marketing for the businesses is pretty similar, if the customer that you're targeting is similar and they're all in similar industries, then that might be an instance where it would be okay to use one LLC and multiple trade names. Or if each business operation on its own is small and your business as a whole is relatively small, then using just the one LLC might be okay. But the problem that can arise in that situation is that the LLC, since that's the entity, that is going to be liable for any of the debts or liabilities of the LLC, regardless of which trade name you're operating under. So if you're operating 4 different businesses, 4 different trade names under one LLC, and somebody sues you because of what you did with trade name 1, the entire LLC is going to be at risk. All of the trade names are sharing that liability. Because of that, that's why I typically recommend to people to have separate LLCs for different business operations, especially if they are totally different operations. If you're doing a marketing company with one and a house cleaning service with the other, they're completely unrelated, and the liabilities that would come up with the two are going to be separate. They're not really going to be related at all. So in that kind of a situation, I think it's a good idea to have them in separate LLCs, because that separates the two businesses and the two businesses' liabilities from each other. So if somebody sues your business that's doing the marketing, your house cleaning business should be protected, as well as you personally being protected. Or if both business operations are very successful on their own, then you want to keep them separate. If each one's making $1 million a year, you want to keep this one's $1 million safe from the other one, because you will then lose $2 million if you're sued and somebody takes all of it. Whereas if they're separate, and there's separate liabilities, separate companies. Of course, the drawback to using separate LLCs is that you now have separate LLCs. You need separate operating agreements, separate bank accounts, separate everything for the 2 or 3 or however many LLCs you're operating under. Whereas if you're just operating one LLC under multiple trade names, you don't have to do that. You only have one operating agreement. You can have one bank account. You can have multiple bank accounts if you wanted for the trade names, just to keep the bookkeeping separate. But from a liability standpoint, it's not going to make any difference. So of course, it's easier to just operate under different trade names with the one LLC, because you're not going to have all of the administrative work that comes with having multiple LLCs. But again, then on the downside is you don't have any liability protection between the multiple business operations. So you need to weigh, your own comfort with liability. If all of your businesses are not making a ton of money, or maybe you don't have a ton of money to put into forming a bunch of different LLCs in the beginning of your business, it's okay to have just the one. But if you have the means and you have the ability to manage multiple companies, multiple LLCs, then it's almost always better to have them separate, just so you have separate liability protection from each one. Of course, as with all of my videos, I'm talking in very general terms. And so whether your company should be multiple LLCs or whether you're safe operating under just one is really specific to your circumstances. So that's why it's important to talk to an attorney who can advise you on your specific circumstances, because what I'm saying is not going to apply to everybody, and your situation might warrant one way or the other. So I encourage you, if you're questioning whether or not you should use multiple LLCs, I encourage you to talk to an attorney about it to make the best decision for yourself. If you're in Colorado and you're trying to decide if your business under multiple LLCs or just one, you can, of course, contact me. My phone number and email are below. And thank you to everybody who comments and leaves suggestions and questions for videos. This one goes out to you guys. I wouldn't make the videos unless people wanted to watch them. So if you leave a comment and want me to talk about a certain topic, I'll try to do it. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Aiden Kramer, and I'll see you next time.